What if I told you that a book from way back in 1937, written right in the middle of the Great Depression, actually holds a secret formula for wealth? And this isn't just some random idea. It's a formula that was commissioned by the great industrialist Andrew Carnegie himself. Okay, let's really get into this.
See, this wasn't just one guy's opinion. The author, Napoleon Hill, spent more than 20 years of his life studying over 500 of the most successful people of his time. We're talking titans like Thomas Edison and Henry Ford. And his whole mission, at the request of Andrew Carnegie, was to find that one common thread, the blueprint they all used to achieve such incredible success. And what he found was that the real secret, well, it wasn't in their wallets. It was all in their minds.
Okay, so if it all starts with just a thought, where in the world do you begin? What's that one single thing that you absolutely, positively cannot skip? This, right here, is the foundation of the entire philosophy.
And the answer is something Hill calls a burning desire. Now, this isn't just a casual wish or a nice to have. It's an all-consuming obsessive goal. And Hill is crystal clear about this. This is the starting line. There's no step zero. It all begins right here.
This is such a critical distinction. You see, most of us get stuck in wishing. We say things like, oh, I wish I had more money. But that's so vague, right? It has no real power. A burning desire, on the other hand, is definite. It's a precise target, an obsession that starts to guide every single thing you do. As Hill says, wishing won't get you rich. Definiteness will.
So let's look at a perfect example of this in action. A guy named Edwin C. Barnes. Now, Barnes didn't just want a job with the famous inventor Thomas Edison. No, his burning desire was way more specific and, let's be honest, kind of crazy. He was absolutely determined to become Edison's business partner.
And I mean, the odds were completely stacked against him. He was totally broke. So broke, he couldn't even buy a train ticket to get to Edison's office. And on top of that, he didn't know Edison, had never met the man, had zero connections. For pretty much anyone else, this story would have ended right there.
But Barnes's desire was so intense that he hopped a freight train just to get there. He showed up at Edison's office looking, as Edison himself later put it, like an ordinary tramp. But Edison, who was a master at reading people, saw something way beyond the torn clothes. He saw that unshakable fire of determination in Barnes's eyes. And in that moment, he basically hired the desire, not the man's resume.
But this is where the real test started. Barnes didn't become a partner overnight. He took a low-level job in Edison's office, and he worked there for 5 long years. He was just patiently waiting, never, ever losing sight of that definite goal. Just think about that for a second. 5 years, fueled by nothing more than a single thought.
And then his big opportunity finally came, but it was disguised as a problem. See, Edison had invented a new dictating machine, the Ediphone, but his experienced salespeople thought it was a dud, too hard to sell. Well, Barnes saw his opening. He jumped at the chance, pitched himself, and he sold that machine so successfully that Edison gave him a national contract. Edwin C. Barnes literally thought himself into a partnership with Thomas Edison. So how do we actually do this? How do we turn this idea into something real? Well, Hill lays out a 6-step method. Number 1, fix the exact amount of money you desire. 2, determine exactly what you'll give in return. 3, set a definite date. 4, create a definite plan and, this is key, start immediately. 5, write it all down in a clear, simple statement. And then, the final step, that's where the real magic happens. Step 6 is absolutely crucial. You have to read that written statement aloud twice a day, once when you wake up and once right before you go to sleep. And as you read it, you have to see and feel and believe that you already have the money. Hill calls this auto-suggestion. It's basically a way of programming your subconscious mind, impressing your desire onto it over and over until it accepts it as a fact and starts guiding you to make it a reality.
But wait, a plan needs knowledge, right? Well, not necessarily knowledge that you have to keep in your own head. Henry Ford famously made this exact point in court one time. When a lawyer was trying to trip him up with random trivia, he basically said, "Why should I clutter my mind with that stuff? I can just push a button on my desk and summon an expert who can give me the answer." The key isn't knowing everything, it's knowing where to get the specialized knowledge you need.
And the best way to get that knowledge is through what Hill calls the Mastermind principle. Now, this isn't just about hanging out with smart friends. It's a dedicated alliance of 2 or more minds working in perfect harmony toward one single definite goal. Hill believed this was so important he claimed that no great fortune was ever built without one.
And this leads to an almost mystical part of the philosophy. Hill argued that when minds really truly align in harmony, they create what he called a third mind, an invisible, intangible force that generates energy and ideas that are way more powerful than what the individuals could ever come up with on their own.
Of course, even if you have a great plan and a great team, you're still going to face setbacks. And that brings us to the story of a man named R.U. Darby's uncle. He went out west and struck gold, a really rich vein of ore. He was thrilled. But then, all of a sudden, the vein just disappeared. They drilled and drilled, but found nothing. And finally, they just quit.
So they sold all their machinery to a local junkman for just a few $100 and went back home, defeated. But you know, this junkman was a little bit smarter. Before he started drilling, he decided to get some expert advice. He hired a mining engineer to come check out the land. And what that engineer found was absolutely shocking. That's right. The junkman drilled those 3 extra feet and pulled millions of dollars out of the exact same mine. Darby's uncle had given up just inches away from a massive fortune, all because the temporary defeat felt like a permanent failure.
The lesson here is just so profound, and Darby learned it the hard way. He realized that when your plan fails, you don't just give up on your purpose. No, you go get expert advice and you create a new plan. Temporary defeat isn't a dead end. It's a signal to keep going, just with a different approach.
You know, that story also highlights another huge reason people fail: indecision. Hill's research found a really stark contrast here. Successful people, they make decisions quickly, and if they need to change them, they do it slowly. Unsuccessful people do the exact opposite. They take forever to make up their mind, and then they abandon their decision at the very first sign of trouble.
So what's fueling all that indecision? It's fear. Hill points to 2 internal enemies that are the absolute most destructive to our ambition. First, there's the fear of poverty, which just paralyzes you. And second, the fear of criticism, which makes us terrified to be different and to take the very risks we need to succeed. So how do we beat these internal enemies? How do we overcome all the challenges the world throws at us? Well, it all comes down to the ultimate principle of Hill's entire philosophy. In a life filled with things we can't control, there is one thing and only one thing that you have absolute unshakable power over: your own thoughts. And that is the ultimate takeaway, because you control your thoughts, and your thoughts are the seeds of your reality. You are the one in the driver's seat. Just like the famous poem that Hill loved to quote says, "You truly are the master of your fate, the captain of your soul."
Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. Andrew Carnegie himself believed this entire philosophy could revolutionize the education system. So, if this blueprint for success is so powerful and so timeless, why isn't it taught in every school? Why aren't we all taught from day one how to truly think and grow rich?